Hello my lovely ladies, welcome back to my channel. This is going to be a little curriculum wrap-up video. So I'm going to go over my September curriculum and everything that I finished, things that I did not finish, what I thought about everything, all of that good stuff. If you are new here, hello. I like to make a little curriculum for myself every month, and basically what that is every month I pick things I want to learn about, things I want to read about, things I just like want to focus on. Sometimes it's like watching very specific movies or TV shows, or going out to do an activity, take a class, do a hobby, stuff like that. So I have been doing this for a long time because I just really like to learn. I'm very curious and I need a little bit of structure in my life, and this helps me a lot. I always enjoyed school, but I didn't really do super well just due to like I have different needs, and I didn't know that at the time, and I really struggled. Like my environment, it was really hard for me, and so I always thought I was like I would be like, I am smart, like I'm reading all of these like high level books, I have like all of this like stuff that I'm always doing, and I know that like if I have enough time I can get these things done, but I like can't learn math. I'm having such a hard time. I don't have enough time to do things, and I would like get so overwhelmed and in freeze states where I just like wouldn't be able to like finish my readings, and then I would like not do well on quizzes, but I like low-key love a quiz. So I've been using like motivated learning and education with myself as like kind of like this healing thing, if that makes sense, because it's really healed my relationship to learning. It has given me a lot less anxiety. I have no pressure with this. Like if I don't finish things in a month, it's totally okay. I'll just like roll it over to the next month. But it's like it adds like just fun to my life. It gives me so much joy, just fun, and like why not? I just think that like as an adult it's so important to like keep our whimsy and figure out what it is that we are interested in and what we like to learn about, because there's so much out there, you guys. There's so much stuff to know about and to learn. It's like there are all these secrets that we could just be like, hello, come over here. So I want to talk about what I did for September. So my first unit was my Degrassi deep dive, and some of you know I've been watching Degrassi The Next Generation for like the last few months, I think, and I was like, you know what, I need to do some research here. Like, where did this start? Because the show has been on for so long. I think it's Canada's like longest running like program, like drama like program or something like that. I don't know what it is, but I know it has like some type of here. We'll look it up. It's the longest running Canadian teen drama. So it had been on the air for nearly 40 years. How crazy is that? So I watched the original Kids of Degrassi Street, and that was like super different than the Degrassi that most of us know. So it was giving like PBS. I think that it probably had like played on PBS back then. It came out in the 70s. And it was more like educational, and the kids were really young. They were like little kids, and they were just talking about like, oh, like I'm gonna make a little movie. Oh, I got a chain letter. Like, oh, I have a clubhouse with my friends. Like I need to learn how to be nice. And it kind of reminded me of old Sesame Street, like when they would like follow kids around and they would like do like little things, like little educational things. So very much like younger children, education. But what I thought was cool about watching the original Degrassi, it was so different. But it's kind of a similar thing where it has like these children who are dealing with these situations, and like how do they overcome those things? How do they get through it? Whatever it takes, I know I can make it through. That was not the theme song back then. But when I'm looking at like the new Degrassi or the newer age one, it's the same thing. It's these kids dealing with these issues, but more like up to date. This is like very much like an anthropology kind of like situation, anthropologic study. But does that make sense? The same situations, they're all kids dealing with issues, but the issues in the late 70s and early 80s, way different than the issues that kids are facing in the late 90s up until the like 2014, right? And I grew up as a child of the 90s, through all of that so I could like tell, I'd be like, no, this is so realistic. Like this is stuff that like was pertinent. This did happen at the time. And it was also interesting to see how different life was for kids and just families before the internet, before we had phones with internet, and before we had access to internet anytime we wanted. You know, people's homes looked really different. People dressed differently. The activities that people were doing were really different. And it's so interesting to me, especially when I was watching Degrassi: The Next Generation, how quickly things have changed. You know, in the early 2000s, like I feel like we forget, that was not that long ago. How different life was. It was very colorful. We were out doing things. We had like friends that we would go see. You just like go to someone's house and be like, hey, do you want to come out and hang out? You know what I mean? And I just thought that was so crazy. Like more kids like getting together and doing clubs and group activities. And that's just like not something that you really like see now. Like we are a lot more isolated. Our homes are a lot more like beige and have like less character. And I just thought that was like, I don't know, pretty interesting. I am gonna continue watching Degrassi because I'm on like season 12, I think episode 25. Also, you guys, wait, listen, this is so funny. Oh my God, this is like embarrassing kind of. I didn't realize that the Degrassi episodes were named after songs for like the longest time. So ridiculous. But yeah, I'm gonna continue just watching Degrassi: The Next Generation because I just wanna watch all of it. And then eventually I'll watch there's Degrassi High as well that I have not watched yet. That was from the 80s, but we'll do that eventually. I'm not doing it for October just because I want to watch True Blood. But yeah, anyway, let's not get sidetracked. So then, okay, one of my units was Inner Alchemy, Consciousness and Dreams. And for that, I had one book that I wanted to read. And guess what? I didn't do it. So sometimes I just like don't have enough time, and the things that I wanted to get to, I just like I don't get to do it. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm still interested in this. I'm still interested in learning about it. I'll just continue it for the next month. So I'm gonna be just rolling that over for my October curriculum. So I didn't get to it, but I will. For my creativity and inner child healing situation, I am doing Walking in This World, which is the second course after The Artist's Way. And I wanted to do weeks 1 through 4, but I only ended up doing weeks 1, 2, and 3. What I want to do with you guys is once I complete weeks up to week 6, I want to do a check-in and we'll talk more in depth about everything at that point. I don't really know how I feel about this one yet. I do enjoy it, but I feel like I'm not learning anything too new. What I like about this is, so it's morning pages, which I started doing when I started The Artist's Way, which is 3 pages of stream of consciousness writing in the morning. It really helps anchor my day, helps get all of the stuff. I have ADHD. It gets all of this stuff out of my head onto a page, and I'm like, okay, cool. And it just really helps calm me down. It helps with my morning anxiety a lot. And it's just like a really slow, intentional like ritual that just, it makes me feel so good in my life and really good throughout my day. So I've been loving that. And then also an artist date, which is taking yourself out, like your inner child, your inner artist, to go and do something fun for like an hour and a half. And the hard thing with this is like giving yourself the gift of time. You know, a lot of times we're like, I'm too busy, I can't go do a thing. Go do a thing for yourself. So I like to just like go out. Sometimes I go like thrifting because I love to thrift. Sometimes I go like do the library and go like do a craft club because I just think that is like so much fun. I really love to like walk around malls and stuff. It's like really fun for my inner child. I just like love it so much. Or like go to bookstores or go like look at different stuff. I don't know. I like to look at stuff like window shopping. I guess that's like what you would say. But yeah, anything can be an artist date. Apple picking, this is a great time for that. You can take yourself on a little fall artist date. You could do a little apple picking, get yourself a cider donut, delicious, delicious. But yeah, so I didn't have enough time to finish week 4, but we'll just roll it over to October. It's really not a big deal. And for manifestation and mindset, for this unit, I had 3 books. I read 1.5, hee hee. So Think and Grow Rich, I haven't finished yet. I have this next to me. So I'll talk to you about that later. Breaking the habit of being yourself. I didn't get to that. I had no time. And then Into the Magic Shop. I did read, and I liked it so much, you guys. So this is Into the Magic Shop, a neurosurgeon's quest to discover the mysteries of the brain and the secrets of the heart. This was so good. And I didn't realize it was a memoir, which I think is funny. I love a memoir. I think sometimes reading something in someone's voice, them like telling you a story of their life, I just think is really cool. So this is about this guy. He grows up really poor, and he meets this lady. He like is going to this magic shop because he needs to go and get like a trick them, because he's like learning magic tricks. And he goes, he's like, do you have any fake thumbs? She's like, I don't know, but do you want to learn some magic, some like real magic? And he's just like, what? And she's like, listen, this is going to be really hard, but if you're going to show up and do this with me, like, you can get anything you want in this life. And, you know, she basically teaches him like manifestation and like how our brain is like so cool and how we can do anything. And, you know, he talks about how today we know that the brain has great, like, it's neuroplasticity. We can change. And when we have, you know, repetition and intention and like we experience things, we can change. And so he talks about his first experience with neuroplasticity is when he meets this woman, and she teaches him like how to rewire his brain. So she's like, okay, first you need to like relax your body, calm your breathing, focus on your breathing, relax. When you can calm your body, you can calm your mind. Therefore, you can kind of tame your mind. You can figure out what you want to focus on, how, like what you want your intention to be. And I thought that was cool, because a lot of the work that I do with like my manifestation is, you know, coming to this really quiet center. What is the middle path? What feels right? And then with that thing that feels right, being like, okay, how am I going to feel when I have the thing that I dream about? The thing that I want most, right? What he talks about too, and what this woman tells him is it's really important to open your heart. And sometimes when we think we want something, it's not always the best thing for us. So in opening your heart, it is so important. It can kind of teach you like what it is that is meant for you, and how leading with love is so important. When you think about the thing that you want, and you think about how you'll feel, and what does that all feel like? What does it look like? It really helps when you can clarify your intent. Deliberate intent is so powerful. And when you put emotion with that, like anything can happen, you guys. It's so cool. So he ends up having also this like near-death experience, you guys, which is like so crazy. And he realizes, he's like, love is what it's all about. We are all connected. And I like this because this was not like religious woo-woo. It was very much just like, no, our brain is like very powerful. It's so crazy. And our heart also has its own like type of intelligence, which like is true. Like our heart has like this whole like electromagnetic field. Because, okay, it's crazy. We have electricity in us, you guys, and I like forget that sometimes, but it's so freaky. Like I could think about that like for a whole day, truly. But he talks about like loneliness and how important it is to like be compassionate, to love other people, to have integrity and dignity, and to be able to forgive ourselves and forgive others. You know, it's hard sometimes because like we go through all this pain and we don't want to be hurt again, but to take those experiences and to lead with love, because the whole point is to like make other people feel good, because that's how you feel good, and that's just like the best magic of it, like of all. And it's really cool. He does all of this like charitable philanthropy work, and he opens this center to research compassion and how like important that is, and how it is like a very powerful thing, and how it has a healing property in and of itself. And then for my class that I took, I did an online class with Harvard X. You can do lots of different online classes for free, you guys. It's very cool. So if you go to Harvard X, there's so many classes. You can just pick one and you can just learn at your own pace, and you audit it. So like you don't get a grade or anything. You just like do it for fun. And so this is Prediction X, Jon Snow and the Cholera Outbreak of 1854. So this series of courses is about how humans have wanted to predict our futures since like the beginning of humans being here, basically. And this, looking at like epidemiology, this is like the beginning of epidemiology, you know, looking at the patterns of things. Like, so if this is happening here, okay, we're going to be getting this outcome. And Jon Snow was this doctor, not the Game of Thrones guy, and he was famous for doing anesthesia, actually, but he was very against this theory. So there was no germ theory of disease at this time. He really did not like the theory of disease, which was the miasma theory, which is like the yucky air is the thing that's making people sick. He's like, I don't think so. So in this time, people like would go to the bathroom and like chamber pots and stuff, and then they would like dump it into the streets, dump it into cesspools, and there would just be like yucky poop water everywhere. And so it smelled really bad. So people were like, oh my God, all of the yucky poop air, that's what's making us sick. But what was happening was the sewage was like leaking into like the water supply, which is like so gross. I would not be okay, you guys, at this time. Like, it's so yucky. So cholera was one of the most deadly diseases at this time. It's interesting because like if you get cholera now, like you'll be fine as long as you get like you need like a lot of fluids. So it causes you to lose most of your body fluid via pooping yourself, having diarrhea, and you like die within a day. So you basically just poop and die, and that just like sounds not fun, like so awful to me. So he is like, it's not the air, it's the water that's causing this. Like, this is what's going on. So cholera outbreaks are point source outbreaks. So it's disease that is being spread through a single source to its victims. And so he starts doing this big experiment. There are these two water companies that are supplying water to this area. So he like looks at this specific area and he's like, okay, two companies, one is supplying contaminated water and one is supplying nice, clean, sanitized water. And they were supplying over here, and then they had overlap for the same area. And so he was able to compare the rates of cholera in these like sub-districts, and the environment and the demographic was the same. The variable was the water that they were drinking. So he would go door to door and see like, okay, there are people dying here. Where were you guys getting your water from? And then he'd like record. He'd be like, where are you getting your water from? There was sickness here. Where did you get your water from? And I think that is interesting that he was like, this is the thing that we need to be focusing on. And he realized that one specific sub-district that was being supplied with like water company A was not getting sick at all. And then the specific sub-district that had only the other one, all cholera, everyone's dying. So then he's like, okay, interesting. That makes sense. It's coming from the water, right? And then in 1854, there's a big cholera outbreak. And it's interesting, they end up tracing it back to a baby. A baby was the culprit. So there was a baby who got really sick and died, and the baby's waste was disposed in a cesspool, and that leaked into the water supply. And that was in this very specific area, and there was a pump this area was like heavily trafficked, and this pump, people really loved the water from it, which is like so interesting to me because it was like contaminated, right? But people were like, no, like it tastes so good, it's clear, it's sweet, whatever. And germ theory of disease is not a thing at this time also. So people didn't know that there were little germs in the water that were making them sick. And you know, when he was conducting this research, this was mostly after people were sick, right? Because he had collected the data of people who were already dead, being like, okay, a bunch of people died here. Where did you get your water from? And he was like, okay, I can study this, but I can also like help people. But he was not really motivated for this work because he like wanted to help people. He just really wanted to prove that the miasma theory of disease was like not correct. He was like, no, this is a waterborne thing. So how this all relates to prediction is, you know, he had this prediction of, you know, if you're having this kind of water, this is the thing that's going to happen. So like, it's like developing a hypothesis, right? And then you test it and then you confirm that. So, you know, even though he was a doctor, he was looking at things more like as a scientist. So, you know, coming up with this hypothesis, testing all of this out, gathering data, and then confirming whether or not it's true. And so at the time, he was like walking door to door, walking and knocking on doors and gathering data, and it was called shoe leather epidemiology, which like makes sense because you're like walking in your shoes. And, you know, while he was doing this, it was fine and great, but he like wasn't really learning anything new. I just think that it's cool that he was able to figure this out before the germ theory of disease was established by Robert Koch and Louis Pasteur. Well, more Louis Pasteur, but Robert Koch was like, he was on the right track, but he just like had bad aura. So I really liked this course. It was a lot of like reading stuff up front, and then towards the end were these two like lectures by conversations with the experts, where it was the chief of medicine, I think, basically the head person at Harvard School of Public Health, and then this lady who was like a very cool lady. She was an epidemiologist, and they just like went over all of the information that was presented in the beginning of the class and like why it was relevant. And I just like hearing people talk about it because it helps me understand the information, not understand it more, but helps it like sink in more. That's what I was gonna say. And it's actually funny because this was like a public health unit, and one of my other units for this month was another public health situation. So public health, tuberculosis, and history and society. And for this one, I did a book and a movie. I watched The Forgotten Plague, which is a documentary, and then I read Everything is Tuberculosis, The History and Persistence of Our Deadliest Infection by John Green. I'm just actually gonna pull my notes up here so we talk about this, okay? So it's funny, you guys, because I read like Looking for Alaska and Paper Towns when I was like younger. So I was, and The Fault in Our Stars. I was familiar with his work, but I was like, I've never read any nonfiction stuff by him. So I just think it's really cool. And I wrote this in my notes. I'll show you guys actually. So I like to do things on Notion. And for this, I like just important information. And then I have like notes, thoughts, and feelings, and then like a summary, and then miscellaneous stuff I don't have anything under. But so that's kind of like what I was just like feeling called to. I was like, I really enjoy this information a lot. I want to make sure I'm like getting all of this nice and organized here. But so I thought it was interesting because I was like, you know, when I was younger, I was reading his stuff, and I'm an adult now. And while my interests are like the same, they have evolved, right? And I think it's cool that like as I have grown, he has also grown as an author, and he is doing this nonfiction, and he's sharing something that he's really, really interested in. And I just think it's cool that as an adult, I'm also still reading his books. So John Green ends up going to Sierra Leone with his wife, and they go there because they are gonna research and learn about people in the community, because Sierra Leone at the time had the highest maternal mortality rate. So 1 in 17 women, that's like a crazy number. 1 in 17 women who are pregnant or who go through childbirth were dying. And at the end of that trip, he ends up going to this hospital because like he wasn't feeling well, and it's actually a tuberculosis hospital, and he meets this boy, and he thinks he's like a really young boy, but he's not. He's like 17. And this kid's name is Henry, and he's a tuberculosis patient. And he's just like, John is like, I meet him, and he's just like so animated and so kind and just so full of, it was crazy. And he's like just like this local celebrity. Everyone is like, oh, he's such a wonderful kid. Like, you know, he had been battling tuberculosis for most of his life. And, you know, John is so impacted by this boy and his mom and their story that, you know, he shares it with us, and he had continued to do all of this work with tuberculosis, and he still does, which I think is really cool. But he shares Henry's story with us, and I was just like, oh my goodness, this is so crazy. Talking about how over there, like in Sierra Leone, you know, when you get sick with this, your family like casts you out. It's just like, nope, absolutely not. And a lot of times people aren't like taken care of properly because people don't have enough money to like go get the medicine that they need. For tuberculosis, you need to go every day to your clinic to get the medicine that you need. And that is like so inaccessible. It's so hard to do, because think about how hard it is to like remember to take your medicine every day, right? So having to jump through all these hoops, like I can't afford to miss work. It's so far away. I don't have money for that. So when that happens, you know, if you're not able to treat a bacterial infection, you know, with these antibiotics in a like regimented way, you develop a bacterial resistant disease or antibiotic resistant disease. So you get these bacterial infections that are not responding to antibiotics. And that is what ends up happening to Henry. You know, there was times where his dad did not want him to be on the medicine, which is like so crazy, but just thought of like, no, like we can heal this. This is like a spiritual thing. And his mom really trying to help him and struggling with money and struggling with like even like clinics, like having enough medicine, having enough of these drugs. And he has also another thing, sorry, I'm like all over the place, is how tuberculosis is tested in these countries, because this is modern, you guys. Like this is not something that happened like 100 years ago. This is modern. The best way to detect tuberculosis is through a chest x-ray, but it's too expensive. So they give these people this other test, and that test, like so many cases don't get picked up by this test. And that's what happened to Henry. And when it goes longer without treatment, it makes it so much harder for the patient for it to be treated ultimately. It's just so crazy. And he was just going through it so bad. He was so sick, you guys. You know, he was going through all these antibiotic regimens and they just were not working. And the medicine that he actually needed was like really, really expensive. And it was just like you could not get it at the time. And there's a very good ending for him. He ends up getting the medicine he needs and he is okay. And he like has a YouTube and he's like doing all this great stuff. But, you know, Jon opening our eyes to just the injustices of this world and how like we do not treat people the way that they should be treated. Like it's crazy. Over 1 million people die a year of tuberculosis, and like they do not have to. We have the tools that we need to fix this, and we just don't. Like, okay, it's not the vibe. And I just am so tired of like reading about stuff and learning about stuff, you know, in regard to medicine, being like, well, this is too expensive. And it's just like, everything is made up. This is so crazy. But anyway, so he tells the story of Henry, but also he is sprinkling in fun facts about tuberculosis throughout history and how it has impacted so much of our culture and our society, and like what we think of, you know, for like rosy cheeks, red lips, that actually has to do with tuberculosis, which I think is so crazy. He talks about the state of New Mexico becoming a state in part because of tuberculosis, because this is really interesting. So at the time, a lot of people were moving out west because they thought that the air over on the East Coast, because it was so humid, it was not good for consumption. So everyone's moving out west, and a lot of people are settling in New Mexico. And even though there were plenty of people living there, United States did not recognize New Mexico as a state because there weren't enough people who were registered to vote there, which is crazy because there were plenty of people there, but they were indigenous to the area. And so all of these people all these people with tuberculosis, and then they're like, okay, we're here, we registered to vote, and then New Mexico becomes a state. So what I thought was really interesting was how tuberculosis was treated in the US and in like Northern Europe in the 19th century. So it's interesting, like it was affecting so many people, right? So like so many people were getting sick, so many people were dying of this. And they thought at the time that when you were sick with this, that you had this like brilliant, artistic, creative mind, that this like awful thing was happening, but you know, you were able to be such a good writer, such a good poet, such a good creative. And it is just such a stark contrast to how we treat people with tuberculosis today. Like, we cast them out. It's just like, ugh, yuck, you're an awful person, like something. And that is just like so crazy, right? Because like, if you are sick, that is the time that like you need the most care and compassion. You know, being cast out, being treated like that, that is not the vibe. Interesting to me how tuberculosis was so romanticized though during this time in like, you know, the US and in Europe. And people like literally thought that it was a helpful thing. And then when people stopped dying of tuberculosis, when people were not getting as sick, doctors were like, American literature is gonna suffer. Like, are we kidding? I just think that's so crazy. I really liked this book, honestly, you guys, because it was just an easy read. It was fun to read. I love his voice as a writer too. It was like very familiar. And I think honestly it's because I've read other books by him. Like when I was younger, it felt like talking to a friend. It was the first long curriculum wrap up I did with you guys, so just like bear with me, okay? I'm learning so much. I'm learning so much. It's so fun. So some of this has evolved into my next month's curriculum. So like, I was loving that cholera class, right? I am going to continue reading about Jon Snow. There's a book that so many people have been recommending me. So I'm going to continue with my cholera little public health unit, learn more about that. And then the tuberculosis was so interesting to me that I'm going to read another book about that. So cholera and tuberculosis, here we go again in October, which I am really looking forward to. And then, yeah, I do have, again, the few things that I like didn't finish, we'll just roll over to the next month. And one of the ways that I really like to keep track of everything is I take notes in a binder, and I also have notes in my Notion, which I don't really know. I'm not fancy with Notion. I just like use it kind of like Microsoft Word. I just like make a document. But it's been really helpful for me because I love making an outline. Like when I used to study wine, I loved making outlines for myself because it helps me remember the information. So like when I take notes and stuff, that's just like what we're doing. It's like not fancy or anything. I'm just writing stuff and having like some different types of headings. Like I don't even know what this is. That's a mess. But you know, taking notes, it's really fun, and it doesn't have to look a certain way, you guys, you know. I just think it's important for it to be just happening. Take the notes. It's all good. And what's cool too is there's no rules. So, you know, sometimes you can do it a certain way or you can just change it up, whatever your heart desires. I think that is it, you guys. I think that is it. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Thank you for being a part of the curriculum club. If you're not, you are now. Okay, besties? I love you all so much. Thank you for bearing with me in my unorganized mind today. I swear to God, my like focus in my mind, I'm just like so excited. So my brain is just jumping around so much. So anyway, that was everything that I did for my September curriculum. I had a lot of fun. This was the first time that I'm doing like a longer curriculum video, so I apologize for the disorganization of it all. I don't know. It is what it is. It is what it is. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Thank you for being a part of the curriculum club. I've been just loving how this has been unfolding. Like the community that we're growing here is so beautiful. I love to see what everyone is interested in. You all teach me so much every day, and it really warms my heart because we are all connected, right? And this is just a way to remember that we are all connected. We all have little passions and little joys and little things that we like to learn about. And even if they are different, we're all kind of doing this thing together but separate, which I just think is so cute. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I love you so much. Thank you for being here. And until next time, I will see you later.